because we were just, kids in our 20s with an idea, and it worked out. But I think we really wanted to aggressively grow this as a spotlight to shine, a light on all the amazing work that's being done in online video, which at the beginning, it wasn't. There was no differentiator. It was people weren't making money. So that definitely wasn't a way that they could sort of draw attention to their success. So it was really some things like the Streamy Awards, being highlighted in Tubefilter, being a feature creator in a conference. That was it.
In this episode, we talk with Drew Baldwin. Drew is a passionate, outspoken advocate for original video programming online. Each year, Drew brings together the biggest names in online video. Drew is best known for being the founder and CEO of Tubefilter. His passion has led him to foster the promotion and legitimization of a new, independent, professional entertainment industry.
This is Creative Disruption, the intersection where entertainment, data, and creativity meet. Here's your hosts, Ricky Ray Butler and Derral.
Welcome back to the Creative Disruption, where we talk about everything that's disrupting the industry. And I'm joined by my co-host, Ricky Ray Butler. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So I was on Twitter today, and I actually saw a tweet from Jim Louderback with VidCon. Now, we had Jim on just a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that they actually had a new featured creator that's going to VidCon. Do you want to take a guess who that is?
It
wasn't me, by the way. Not at all.
Tana.
Oh my God. You saw the same tweet.
Yeah.
You already saw the same tweet. Well, give little context. Last year, she decided, since she wasn't, a feature creator, that she'd start her own conference. And I run a conference, so I know all the logistics behind it. It
ended up being a disaster.
It is like so many moving parts. There's so many different things that are going on. And if you don't do it right, you have a lot of liability. And when I think the idea was great, say, hey, let's get the fans together. Let's not charge anything, which is like, you got to charge something, if not, there's some liability. But what happened was a train wreck.
Oh no, I followed all of that.
I know, because
that was intense.
I think we were at VidCon. You're like, hey, do you want to head over there? And I'm like, yeah,
no. No, I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah,
but I agree. Like, doing an event, there's so many logistics involved. That's just a huge risk in the first place, and you just got to be really prepared. But I'm very happy that Jim did that. That's a very he's a really stand-up guy.
He is a stand-up guy.
Good person. And it was nice, to be able to hear that really loud complaint and let her in.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. We talked about VidCon in the past, especially with Jim, and going there and seeing the evolution of VidCon. Since VidCon 1 to where it is today. One thing that I noticed, it's like that fan creator experience is a little scary. I remember the first time it really got crazy. I think it was VidCon 3. Or maybe 2, but it was like you had all these tweenies that would just run around, and this guy was like a Pied Piper, he's a creator, and everybody's like trying to follow the creator where it is, and it's just like, I could see it getting out of control. And I know the last couple years, just because of the crowd and everything, they've taken additional measures, especially with everything that's in the news and all the people that are doing some pretty crazy things.
Yeah, and it's good that they've taken those measures. Like, I remember VidCon 1. I think it was a conference full of introverts. It was like all the geeky, nerdy people, from the internet came together, and it was very respectful. And it wasn't as loud, but after a couple of years, it was like the British invasion all over again.
Yeah,
and it got really crazy, and as a result,
when they introduced
it got more
concerts
dangerous.
and everything like that. Yeah. So VidCon definitely disrupted the industry, and I really love it a lot. And it's like bringing the community together even further. Now, our guest that we actually have on was able to disrupt it a little bit differently because, with television, you have like the Oscars, and I guess the Oscars was movies, right? But you have Grammys with television, and you have all the awards. But our guest actually founded something different. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. Today we have a good friend of mine, Drew Baldwin. who is the founder of Tubefilter, as well as the creator and executive producer of the Streamies. And the Streamies, if you haven't heard of the Streamies, is basically like, the Grammys, but for video creators,
right?
Online video creators across a variety of platforms, from YouTube to Twitch to Instagram. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's evolved definitely, but it really reflects the state of the industry. So whatever platforms are of the moment, they're being reflected among the nominees of the Streamy Awards and the winners.
I remember my first time going to the Streamies. It was a while back.
What year was it?
I don't remember.
Who was performing?
See, he knows.
All I remember is that it was still really new to the YouTube community.
Was it at the Beverly Hilton?
Yes.
Okay.
It was. I think it was one of the first years you guys were doing it there. Oh, actually, no, maybe it wasn't.
Or was it the Palladium?
Which is in Hollywood,
was
right?
Was Vanilla Ice there?
I don't remember.
You would have remembered that.
Yeah.
Was Sir Mix-a-Lot performing?
Possibly.
Starship.
Usually during the performances, I'm out doing something else.
He says he remembers it, but he doesn't really remember it.
It was so memorable.
It was like the best event ever. I don't
caught me
even
in a
remember
lie.
anything.
Look, there's an open bar, so
No, I wasn't there for Vanilla Ice. I don't remember the performance specifically, but I do remember that everyone was just pumped to be there, and there was a lot of creators that wanted to go that couldn't go because it was just such a hot thing, and it still is that way. And it was the first time something like this actually happened in the community, where you had VidCon, you had playlists and different events that were being successful, but I think the first award show was Streamies.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the Streamies started before VidCon. It's just it's the 9th annual show that's coming up at the end of the year, but we actually started in 2009. It was just an idea, and it just was really, really good timing. And I could go into a little bit about the origin of it if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who were the first? What was the first communities involved?
So, I mean, they were all over the place. So it was a really interesting time in entertainment when we founded the Streamy Awards. So we had founded Tubefilter, and the idea of Tubefilter really was to celebrate this professional style of treating video content on the internet, as opposed to just random viral stuff. So it was about intentionality is really what our distinguisher was. We would see videos that were just funny, like a baby farting baby powder. But then there was also people who were really trying to tell a story.
So the baby farting with, the baby powder, is that professional or is that...
Well, I mean, I think that was just like a funny video that went viral, but there was no repeatability. It wasn't really building an industry out of that. Like Charlie Bit My Finger, the proverbial dog on a skateboard. I mean, we've kind of gone full circle. Last year we had the Milkbone Dog of the Year. But those were about heroic dogs on the internet, not just famous dogs. In fact, there's some pet tragedies recently.
Grumpy Cat.
We lost.
That's
Grumpy
the only cat in the whole wide world I actually liked. It was like, no, we didn't have a lot of hate. no, it is. There's definitely been pet tragedies, but what I found fascinating with the Streamies, and this is something that I've noticed so far. I've never been. But it's like there is kind of a leveling up. It's like when you treat an industry that it is emerging and there's certain things that are happening. People need accolades and awards and stuff like that, and it filled a niche perfectly with a lot of people says, how do you even make money with online video? But yet here when you bring in awards and people together, and it just really starts to say, hey, no, this is its own industry. This is something that's going to have more entertainment and so on. People are going to aspire to be these creators one day. I look at some of the people that you featured this last year, and you go to mom and dads, and some of them might not know, but you have kids. They're like, oh yeah, no, I know who those people are.
Yeah, totally. If you have young people in your household, then you know all about the Streamy Awards. If not, I'm always surprised when someone above 30 years old knows about the Streamies. It's like, really? Oh, wow.
Wow. Cool. You're not our target demo, but hey.
So, so with Tubefilter, it was always an industry focused. Like we were interviewing people and publishing their stories on Tubefilter, people who were passionately driven online video creators. And it ran the gamut in terms of platforms. Yes, there was YouTube, but there was also Microsoft had its own network, the MSN network, and Zune. There was this platform called Strike TV. Hulu was starting to do original production. Right. Netflix really wasn't at that point, if I recall. So in 2009, there was a strike in Hollywood, and all the writers did not write. And if you know anything about production and entertainment, the script is like the skeleton and the backbone of everything flows from that. Everyone, the production designer, the director, the actors, the guy who like does the portable toilets, they're all dependent upon this script. And so since there was no script,
a big portion of our business, at Ben, it's the same. Whenever there's a strike, we get really nervous. Yeah, because it affects productions.
So going live with content. It became this thing where there's a lot of creative people who are not working. And there was also an opportunity to make a political statement with the internet. Like, we don't need the studio system. We don't need you. Let's rally behind and let's work. Let's rally together and, threaten the establishment using the internet. So it was a really great year to launch the Streamy Awards. I mean, we didn't do it intentionally that year, but it was a fantastic first year of the Streamy Awards because not only did we be able to invite all of the native talent that was emerging in online video, like Felicia Day. Mm-hmm. We also could bring some more traditional entertainers like Neil Patrick Harris, who was in a Hulu original called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog. And that was like a big, broke Hulu. It was amazing. And so we, that sort of amalgam was the first ever Streamy Awards. And it was a huge surprise success. And we had really great moment. It seemed like this was the award show of this new revolution in entertainment. But there was so much idealism at that moment. It was super, super exciting for us. And, we thought, oh, wow, we figured out life. I mean, all you have to do is figure out what you want. And that's the hardest part. It's
Figure it out, have people go on strike, and then things will work for us.
So we got very, very lucky the first year. And in subsequent years, we tried to aggressively grow the show and then partnered with Dick Clark Productions, who's a veteran award show producer. They produced the Golden Globes and the American Music Awards and the Billboard Music Awards and the Academy of Country Music Awards. And of course, the Streamy Awards. Yeah. And they just brought that half a century of production experience because we were just, kids in our 20s with an idea and it worked out. But I think we really wanted to aggressively grow this as a spotlight to shine, a light on all the amazing work that's being done in online video, which at the beginning, it wasn't. There was no differentiator. It was people weren't making money. So that definitely wasn't a way that they could sort of draw attention to their success. So it was really some things like the Streamy Awards, being highlighted in Tubefilter, being a feature creator in a conference. That was it.
Right.
I want to switch gears because like one thing is part of my ritual. If it's not every day, it's like maybe every other day that I go onto your website and see what's actually going on in the industry. And like Tubefilter has been a wonderful place for me to get news. And I do notice that some blogs and some news outlets, they kind of skew a certain way. But when I go on, I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to get industry news that's going there. I might even get some features of people that I don't even know about, which is amazing. Just getting people on the radar. And then every once in a while, there's like a whole education track too. I mean, you might have some education. Someone's talking about the algorithm or whatever. It's just this whole wonderful blog, and it's like I love it. I get the notifications. I go like I said religiously on it. How did that all start? And what was the main goal when you're setting up this blog, and how's it changed over the years?
Well, first of all, it's just so miraculous to hear you talk about this because it's something we made up. Like it's just so cool for you to validate that impulse we had 10 years ago when we started Tubefilter. It's an interesting story because originally I had been a producer and director in digital video. So prior to working in online video, I worked at an agency, a talent agency, in the commercials and music videos department. In commercials and music videos are short form content, and it was very easy transition into digital entertainment, online video. And I started directing. I got paired up with some creative guys out of Louisiana called Studio 8, and they worked with a creator named Justine is Eric. Yeah. And we did a bunch of projects together, went to Alaska, went to Chicago, and a buddy of mine, we were in high school together, who was an actor, he was very, very excited about the online video space and wanted to produce original content. There was no industry there, but there was definitely this creativity and this new faces, diverse faces in online video. So we set out to open up a development shop, like accept scripts, and we had some financing. But we very quickly learned that there wasn't really an industry. And in order to get our name out there and get connected, we had a blog called Tubefilter, basically tubefilter.com/news.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and so we just we wanted to find out like what people were doing. We hosted meetups, and we had this thing called a comedy meetup that we would bring people who were creators together. And it's so funny because a lot of the people that we were working with are now sort of big shots here in the online video space, like the Next New Networks team, who are now all over the place, including having been acquired by YouTube. But you have like Kathleen Grace at Newform, and Ben Rellis at YouTube, Tim Shea, who's at YouTube. All of these folks, we just became the hub for this burgeoning industry of primarily introverted people. So we were able to host mixers, and it was deliciously awkward. But we would also seriously write about people. It was really our way of championing the industry that was developing. The same way that LA Times championed, like under Chandler's direction, like championed Los Angeles. We've always sort of had a mission to elevate and celebrate this amazing creativity that's going on.
So when did it shift? Like when did it shift to that type, more news? And
it went very quickly because we realized that there was no industry. Like people were doing this as a passion project. Like Joss Whedon, some of the bigger name things, passion project. Felicia Day, she had a show called The Guild.
Right.
Totally passion driven. In fact, she built a website for the show and put a PayPal donate button on it. And that's how she funded the show. So if you look at like one of the original Streamy Awards speeches from the first ever Streamies, if you go into like the Streamies YouTube channel, you go back to the first one, Felicia talks about she was an actress trying to book commercials.
Wow.
And she's like, I was tired of waiting for permission to be an artist. So I created my own show. And it was perfectly focused too. It was for gamers. It was about like massive multiplayer gaming. It's called The Guild. And it really resonated with people who were already on computers playing. And then, of course, they did a big deal with Xbox. And that's when it just like exploded because you're on Xbox playing a game, and then you're watching the entertainment that's really made for you, right? That sort of niche focus. And it became super, super successful. And that's when we started noticing that there was really something here, but there was no business there. There was a thing called Quarter Life, which was Marshall Hershkovitz's idea. You had a company called Vugaroo. There was all these ad hoc networks, and everybody was kind of hosting their own player. Like because of the strike, there's a thing called Strike TV where there's a lot of original programming, but there wasn't really. I mean, there was definitely not a YouTube originals program. Right, there's barely a partner program at that point, and you had to be inducted into it.
See,
when I was working, there was actually somebody who was the editor of the YouTube homepage. a human being
Wow.
that picked what was going to be featured. But that proved to be, I think, a big liability.
Yes,
and,
it did.
So now she was replaced by, her name was Felicia Williams. She was replaced by an algorithm.
Yeah, Google Brain.
As we all will be one day.
I'll be robots.
One day. You know, this all makes sense. I mean, I didn't know this detail. I mean, all these details from your history, but it all makes sense because I remember, probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, out of nowhere, everyone was talking about Drew. And I've been a part of the industry, over a decade. And I was like, who in the heck is this guy? This tall Casanova, charming gentleman, that keeps seeing at all these events, and that everyone, creators as well as everyone in the business, seem to know and want to get close to. And that just makes sense. So you basically, built an infrastructure of connecting the community, both with Tubefilter as well as with the Streamies. When did the Streamies pivot to mainly focus on the content creators and influencers that we know today?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So the first Streamy Awards, really we didn't know what we were doing, so we modeled it after the Golden Globes and the Emmys with director and writer and set designer, and tried to look at that because I think a lot of people who were creating original production and online video were doing serial episodic. We called them web series at the time. Some people called them webisodes, which I just thought was just a tough word for me. Webisode was like if you had a TV show and then the marketing department made you do webisodes.
There's a lot of terminology that's being made up back then, for sure.
But they were always unique. They're taking a unique approach to it, mostly because they were confined by budget, the ability to the constraints of the equipment, the technology. So that creativity really focused what would happen. Then there was this phenomenon. It was this series called Lonely Girl 15. And it was this show that you couldn't tell whether it was a vlog on YouTube or was it real.
Oh, you haven't seen this?
No.
Oh, you need to go watch this.
She was was she kidnapped?
It's crazy. They were super smart.
Meta.
Yeah, super, super smart. And when I watched it, I was like, whoa, this is way before their time. And they were just some friends that decided to, pull it together. But it was a full production. They had writers, had producers, they had directors, but it looked like a vlog. It was a vlog, and it was just it was okay, did she get kidnapped? Is it, there was a lot of worried people on the internet about her. But yeah. That was way back when. I forgot
it was
all about
founded by two partners. One is called Equal, and one of the partners was Greg Goodfried, who's now an agent at United Talent Agency. And so it's all these people they've been in the business for a long time. It's so funny to actually say that online video is a long time.
Yeah, it's maturing now.
Yeah, it's maturing. Mm-hmm. So I think honestly we missed the YouTube, the first wave. With the Streamy Awards for the first year. There was a vlogger category, and we kind of cramped all of YouTube into that category.
Sure.
And I had some relationships in the community, but mostly, we were doing an awards show. We were focused on sort of elitist, cinematic, episodic style content. But it became very clear to us that there was something very, very powerful with this sort of YouTube direct-to-audience type of production. And I think it was maybe around the third Streamy Awards after our partnership with Dick Clark, which sort of delayed the third one to the end of the year. It was the beginning of the year, so that's why we're kind of not, even though we started in 2009, we're only in our 9th show this year, where we really dug in and doubled down on YouTube content and created these subject categories like beauty, science and education, things that are completely native to the internet, like collaboration and cover song, which was really big at the time. And then, new platforms would come, like Vine had its moment. And I feel like we really captured that.
Well, I remember the year you had Vine, and it was very uncomfortable because you had the Vine crowd and the YouTube crowd, and they just didn't seem to like it.
And they didn't. Yeah, they didn't.
It was so awkward.
Yeah, I mean, awkwardness is that's what we live on.
I don't know if it was Brittany Louise Taylor or who was it? But anyways, I remember somebody going up there and saying, "Thank you for accepting us here. I know that we're new." like mentioning the elephant in the room.
Totally.
But it was weird because you could just tell when the Viners got awards, is just like kind of like soft clap. It wasn't the crowd, but
everyone was scared of Vine.
Right.
It was easier to produce. Remember, this is pre-Snapchat stories. This is pre-Instagram stories.
Right.
It was easy. It was highly viral. It really connected. There was an extraordinary amount of creativity. There were some really diverse faces
easier
too.
to collaborate with the Viners than it was with YouTubers.
It was a 1-2 punch, literally bang, bang. Video caption. And I remember Chris Williams, who's the founder of Pocket Watch, is like, Vine, he was at Maker Studios at the time. He said, "Vine is what keeps me up at night." I remember that.
Wow.
And so it was amazing. It was an amazing story too. I mean, the top Viners were all people of color. It was a huge moment, a sort of renaissance in online video. People could just pick up a phone and be a star literally in weeks.
Well, there was more diversity, I'd say, in YouTube at the very beginning too, at the top.
Yeah,
and then it did. That's something that did. I guess history repeated itself with Vine, where it was a much more diverse group. But for me, like from my perspective, it's funny, that from like an MCN perspective, thinking, okay, Vine kept them up at night. From our perspective, we're like, awesome, we have another channel where we can take our brands and like integrate into content.
And that's all you could do on Vine because they didn't ever monetize it in the same way YouTube did, which YouTube did an amazing job, I have to say, professionalizing the industry because it took a group of passionate artists and it gave them the ability to live and like make this their craft, which we have this thing called Creators Going Pro. It's a series that we do on Tubefilter where we talk about that moment when you as a creator went pro. Like you quit your job and you went full time. And that wouldn't have happened without the YouTube partner program. And then later that injection of $100 million in premium original content when YouTube launched its original slate. I don't even remember what it was called. So, but Vine, you had to do integration because there was no other way. And because as a Viner, you couldn't get comfortable just producing content. Those creators were always looking for the next opportunity, whether it was integration or it was jump in. I think, bam, they just jumped on the next platform very easily.
And I think too, they're probably the most creative people too, because like you got 6 seconds. Like what are you going to do to engage them well enough that they'll want to watch it and rewatch it and come back time and time again? It's just like. I think of the AB family, like some of the most creative Vines I've ever seen. And then they were able to translate that over to YouTube later on and Facebook. And, it's just
a lot of the Vine creators were able to. Able to translate it, from Vine to YouTube or Instagram.
Many of them were.
Yeah, many of them, not all of them. There's actually one person, Jordan Burt, who at one time was like a really large Viner. He used to actually be our employee at Plaid back in the day before we got acquired by Ben. And it was funny because he said, "Hey, I'm leaving, and I have like 30,000 followers on Vine, so I'm just going to start doing that." And I was like, "Oh, whatever. That's not going to really go anywhere." And then literally 3 months later, he had like 3 million followers.
So you're like, okay, now you go back to him. Okay, we're ready to do an integrated brand deal.
Oh, we did. No, we brought him several integrated brand deals because he was one of the bigger ones. But
he probably got paid more.
He didn't. He ended up not going over to YouTube like everyone else did. But there's a huge Vine invasion that happened on YouTube where you have the David Dobrik's, you have the Liza Koshis, you have the Paul.
Hey, you don't think of them as Viners?
No, you don't. Not anymore because they're the next generation of YouTubers or creators.
Right.
And I remember being, I think it was at a conference. It was either at VidCon. No, it was that playlist where I was on a panel, and there's a large YouTuber, and this is like 6 years ago or like 5 years ago. A large YouTuber was like, "It's too late to get famous on YouTube. It's very saturated." and
Not true.
I told him, I was like, that's false. I was like, look at everything that's happening on Vine right now, and
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean,
it does before they really hopped over.
That was a fear of ours with the Streamy Awards. Like, okay, we're gonna build these awards and categories of awards. Is it gonna stagnate, right? Because many of the creators and the channels that we celebrate it's not like a production. It's like a movie that comes out and then, or a season. It's really, some of these are evergreen channels, but those creators that are rising and sort of having their moment, which is really the Streamies, is celebrating those in our community who are, let's shine a light on them and like celebrate they had a great year, right? It's not about the best because it's so subjective.
Right.
It's really about, let's create a cross section of the what we've done as a creative community and put it out there and put it out there for the world to see. And 7 million people watch Streamy Awards. It's a great way to advocate for this industry. So I think YouTube's also did a great job for Vine. I think many Viners were making money through compilation videos on YouTube, like through Collab.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The Collab Creators Network. They saw that YouTube was a viable opportunity to monetize with regularity, not just the occasional massive Ben deal that gets to come in and float the rest of your operating budget, but actually steady incremental. Now, there are new platforms that are coming out that are moving with much more rapid acceleration than Vine ever did. Instagram also, when they made the decision to utilize the Facebook momentum to launch that and really rip a lot of market share away from Snapchat, amazing move. Now we have TikTok, which is just coming out of nowhere.
Exactly.
TikTok is exploding.
It's exploding, and I'm curious to actually learn from.
ByteDance is one of the smartest companies out there. They're doing this not just with TikTok, but another platform called Douyin in China, and they're to be reckoned with. I think they're scaring a lot of the platforms out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton
soaring.
There's not a ton of transparency around it. I like to hear. I mean, obviously, this is your podcast, not mine, but are brand deals working? Are these numbers real? I mean, is this really happening? Or is there really resonance? I mean, I see it anecdotally everywhere, but you never know. There's been a lot of platforms that have come and gone that have big numbers. Yeah.
No, you're right. But you know what? Vine worked to the best that it could. But no, TikTok is definitely the real deal. But this is where it gets interesting. I have a theory. Vine could have been a power player, and they could have kept their momentum if they were smart. Snapchat, even though Snapchat's still very relevant, they made some mistakes early on. And if you want my biased opinion, being that we as a the company that I run, we focus on getting content, whether it's Hollywood or these digital video platforms. The issue is they did not make it easy. Both platforms. Snapchat and Vine, neither made it easy for creators to really monetize with integrations. And what I mean by that is brands are very sophisticated. They want to be able to measure their ROI. They want to be able to have as much data as possible. And if you don't allow, to be able to have links or to be able to click out of your platform, you're really making it so the creator is no longer empowered. And I believe Vine, to this day, would still be very relevant if they would have just made that one adjustment.
And really cater to monetization for the creator.
100%.
Yeah,
outside of integration, if they would have just figured out and made it a priority to have a rev share, with ads, kind of like an AdSense, or empower the integration, that is something that would have made it so that I guess Vine economy would have been fueled and it would have exploded. Look what happened with Instagram. I mean, Instagram started video, stole a lot of the market share, but they didn't make out yet.
Other things too.
Right. But once they started stories, once Instagram started stories, and where you could swipe up, Snapchat for us became immediately less relevant. We immediately thought, okay, these audiences are just as big, if not bigger, on Instagram compared to Snapchat. Let's spend where we can measure clicks and conversions.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's interesting. I think TikTok it will be the number one, if it's not already the most downloaded app in the world. I know it is in certain regions, but it's very interesting. I think it's bringing a level of creativity that's similar to Vine, but it's taking it, I think, up a notch. And you can massively grow. I've seen people go from nothing to be, just in a few weeks having, hundreds of thousands of followers. And so I think it's very interesting. And then they are playing a lot into monetization. I mean, that is part of their strategy, and they are making it easier for creators to make money. And they're also giving money to creators too, to help seed some talented creators to create content and go from there. So I'm very fascinated to see how it goes this year. But it's going to be about the usability and the findability of content creation. And so one of the issues that I have with TikTok is if you don't post, you're dead, and you have to post a lot. And I see creator burnout being a huge issue, where they can't go search and find. And like, if you stop posting, you're stopping making money, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you get creator burnout. You also get audience burnout.
Yeah.
There's a kind of backlash right now to this compulsivity that happens on both sides of the camera, right? So, or the screen, rather. So you have creators that totally burn out, and then you have audience members who are like compulsively scrolling, and then that leads to other issues that are being combated now, where people are putting their phones down. They just can't engage in this hamster wheel. Yeah. And I've noticed that through all these new apps that come out, YouTube's also kind of been a constant the entire time. Yep. And it's like no one ever talks about, oh, well, TikTok's coming out, YouTube's threatened. They talk about, oh, TikTok's coming out, other mobile platforms are in trouble. How are they going to respond? And I think it's because it takes more work and time to produce a YouTube video, and it takes more time to consume a YouTube video. And so it's like more of a meal, yep, for the consumer. And so I think that's like really interesting that a lot of people I think are going to build up on TikTok, and then they're going to launch their YouTube channel and
for sure.
and do a little bit more long form and then develop a series, maybe do a YouTube original, or maybe go to traditional television or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. The only thing with YouTube, and I love YouTube to death, I really do. I spend too much time on it, both in front and behind the camera and stuff like that. But YouTube has an issue. It's trying to become something that a lot of creators don't want it to become. And so it's like they want to become the cable TV network of the industry. And I see like some internal push and focus to really professionalize it more. And there is just a lot of people out there that just want to do what the original slogan of YouTube was, which is broadcast yourself. They want to be able to do it very quickly. And there's more and more hoops that are and pressures that are being added upon by these creators. And I see personally, you get a competitor that makes it easy to work with, but that it's searchable. It's that you can go find back catalog. YouTube's going to have some trouble because they're trying to push so much so with original content. I think they want to become Netflix and the cable TV all merging together and get better production, so you don't have these bad actors that's there. And I really worry where the platform's really going. And I think TikTok's interesting, and I don't think it threatens YouTube by no means, but it's like if they can resolve the problem of people searching and finding and have access to back library and making it a little bit easier for creators, then it's going to be a slam dunk. I'm hoping Amazon does something. It'd be nice.
Well, they are doing something. Twitch.tv.
Well, Twitch is amazing.
Right.
Twitch is amazing, and it works for a very good vertical. But like for an end all for everything, yeah, it wouldn't be too difficult to clone it and go from there. They have all the infrastructure in place, but ultimately it just, I don't know. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to try to create some type of hybrid of like Amazon, streaming video Prime and with a Twitch. That'd be interesting. That'd be awesome.
Did anyone ever acquire Dailymotion? Because like Dailymotion started at the same time as YouTube, and it just I mean, that's a cautionary tale, I think.
Wait, didn't MCN acquire Dailymotion?
That's what happened.
That might have been
like
Meta
Studio
Cafe.
71?
We should
Or
have
is that
someone that
Dailymotion?
actually writes articles on this.
Yeah, Drew.
I think did Studio 71 acquire
I
Meta
can't
Cafe?
remember.
Oh, that was Meta Cafe.
Meta Cafe.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Dailymotion. I don't know if anyone's
French
acquired
company. They
Dailymotion.
do really well, but they're just eclipsed by YouTube. I mean, I think the recent statistic is that 500 hours of content are uploaded on YouTube every minute. And so the thrust of their marketing, I mean, that's a big challenge because YouTube is so many things to so many people.
Right.
And it's not like they're trying to be so many things to so many people. It's just that big that that's it. So where are they looking to grow? Where are they where's the thrust of their marketing efforts? That's the hard, I think, challenge for YouTube is because they have a responsibility to the creator community as we know it, but then also like skinny bundle users. They're doing huge initiatives with much larger tentpole projects because the opportunity is there. And, Google is like a big, huge part of my life in terms of the business that I do in the suite of products that they have. And I think YouTube also, wants to be able to provide that totality.
Right.
I'm pleased to see that they're not trying to create a Instagram stories type of product, right? They're not doing that.
They have YouTube stories.
Yeah, but
He's trolling.
no, but I think
Oh, that's so awesome.
but I think if the users are there, they should leverage it. I think
Sure.
they did a very good job like staying relevant throughout this entire spectrum. I mean, there is over a decade-old company in online video. Super pioneers.
Just the last 4 years, they've hit a couple big bumps in the road, and I foresee a lot more issues coming out, and they are trying to address it. And they are trying to address it in the best possible way they can. And there's a lot more things that are going on that we're not aware of. I mean, we don't know all the internal things that are happening at YouTube and the things that, where their priorities are at. But that being said, there is a disconnect between the creator community and YouTube right now. And it's just like you get a sliver and you let it fester for a while and it just starts to inflame and get bigger, and it becomes an issue before you know it, you have to amputate a finger off or whatever it is because it's that big of an issue. And I see what's happening at YouTube right now. It might seem small, but it's getting more and more people worried to come on, and people that they'll have employees, like 18, 19 employees, and before you know it, they get rid of their partner program or they delete something or they say, oh, you had a pedophile leave comments on your thing, so we're unmonetizing all your channel. That type of issue, and then they're hard to communicate. There's some major issues with the creators itself. And when they first started to have issues, that's when they were able to acquire Next New Networks and really build a good creator ecosystem and a good way to communicate. But for how massive they are, they have a huge job to try to be able to communicate clearly and directly to the creators. But I want to just take a step back, and sometimes it's like not necessarily addressing the issues when they're at, but being proactive, saying like, let me just do the first kid apocalypse that went around. It would have been nothing for the CEO to get up and say, look, we had this happen. We heard these things. It's coming down. We're going to give you guys 48 hours to clean it up. Here's some guidelines of what you can do to clean it up. And after that, we're going to start deleting channels and demonetizing it. And what happened was I don't know if you remember this, but it was like on Thanksgiving Day when there was no one you could actually contact at YouTube, and everything got demonetized in some of the kids' niches and channels and so on. And it was like 4 days before you could even talk to a partner manager, sometimes even 5. And they didn't even respond back because they were just getting inundated by all these different things. And so there are some challenges and hurdles. And my big thing is we got to grow and we got to be what it is, where's going to bring in the money. But if you really look at the core of what's bringing in the money, it's the people that are really creative and they attract an audience, and that audience expects something from those creators. And when you make it difficult for creators to get their video out to the people that have subscribed to them, and then also you make it a very, very difficult for them to actually make a consistent living, that is when those are the problems that I probably are the most concerned about with YouTube, just because you have all this influx and you look at all the different people that want to, the kids that are coming up, they want to be a YouTuber, and that you're going to have more and more people coming in. And I don't think it's oversaturated, but those issues are going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you have a lot of people that not only have burnout because of creating content, but burnout because they're dealing with issues that could have been solved by just some really good communication.
Sure. I feel that, YouTube is probably a little conflicted right now of course, making advertisers happy, as well as making the creators happy. And I agree in some ways it might seem that they've lost their way of where they're trying to be more TV and more like a TV network when, I think, if they looked at their data, the data probably shows that people like to consume as much content as fast as possible.
Right.
And going towards more of the long form, I think, doesn't provide that demand or that need. But at the same time, I do watch a lot of long form content on YouTube today when I didn't probably 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, since there is this conflict with what advertisers. Well,
they have a third one too. It's just not advertisers and creators. You have the third one, which is the viewer too. You have to
the
balance
consumers,
out
the viewers,
because they're the most concerned with viewers because. If the viewer has, a disconnect, they're not getting content that they want to consume, they're not going to come back.
Right.
And so that's one of their main focuses. And I think by far out of the three, they've done the best on that. I get exactly what I want to see.
Oh,
Google Brain is so great.
The featured algorithm is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
They know exactly what I want to watch. But I guess the question is do you feel like there should be a much bigger focus on YouTube's part or Google's part to have premium? To make it, so they get more subscribers there, so there's not that big of a conflict with ad agencies or brands.
Well, the premium issue, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the premium issue, just because of the Logan Paul thing and everything that's happened, they're a lot more sensitive who comes into it. So I know right now they'll have to, an actual employee will have to go through their whole library to see if there's anything questionable.
Sure.
And I'll just do it. I spent the weekend at a retreat that we just, a few YouTubers get together. And Mr. Beast is one of those guys. He's not on YouTube Premium. I just can't fathom it for
that's crazy.
How many people watch his content and the type of content. He's shifted. He's clean in the sense of the content that he's doing, and he's not on YouTube Premium. However, he started a second channel that basically has no flags, no nothing, and it's on YouTube Premium now. So yet,
wow,
something he's getting more money per thousand views.
Well, he's doing so much for that platform than most creators out there.
I think we're gonna do a huge, thorough analysis on Mr. Beast, and just because it's a phenomenon. It really is.
Oh wow! What he's producing is just amazing.
But that's my whole point about the featured program, for the preferred, because from YouTube's perspective, and I understand it from their perspective, they have to have
Google Preferred.
Yeah, Google Preferred. Okay. Yeah. So they have to have a diverse portfolio. They need to have.
So do you have to be preferred in order to get rev share from the premium?
Premium.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't realize
ads.
that. I assumed that everyone that could make money off of ads.
No, you have
make money off.
You have the
premium.
partner program, which anyone can make money off as long as they get 1,000 subscribers and have 4,000 hours watched, and that their content isn't breaking any community guidelines or terms of service. But they're able to do that. To get the higher ad revenue is reserved ads, and reserve ads are, hey, YouTube has the portfolio of these channels, and here's the demographics, and they're shopping the highest dollar for those, and so the CPMs and RPMs are just through the roof.
That's the
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating, but for me, it's the communication with the advertisers and with the creators need to improve. And they don't have that big of a team. I know all the people in the verticals that we have channels with, and there are partner managers that are handling hundreds of channels. And how are you supposed to respond to that? And even on top of it, you get, just because of the channels that you're doing, if they're uploading, let's just say 3 a week of the hundreds, and they have some issue with monetization, how are they supposed to handle that? I don't understand And I know that they've outsourced a lot, so they have some verification outside, and then you can self-verify a lot of the content. But it's an issue that they're going to need to get a lot of people in a think tank and come up with it. If not, I can just see a competitor, and there's so much issues in creators' hearts right now that they'll jump ship very, very quickly if it's at all appealing.
Sure. I'm sure you guys have covered a lot on this topic.
Yeah, I mean it's
more than you
very
possibly
complex.
can count.
You have a platform that, because anyone like I said, can broadcast themselves. It really is like a reflection of humanity, and it has like the entire gamut of the human experience, like the most beautiful, amazing things, and the most dark and depressing, hateful. So that's very difficult to balance that, allowing freedom of expression, but also this sort of quasi-moral parameters that you need to put on it, particularly in response to the advertisers, who are only responding to general mainstream public. So it really is like this conversation between ourselves with ourselves as creators, trying to communicate to an audience, and that audience responding to those communications, and the occasional cross communications where people are very offended. There's a high level of sensitivity. These guidelines are getting more restrictive, and these companies are starting to be treated like media companies that need to have moral directive, or at least some kind of ethical directive, and that's very, very difficult because it was built as an open forum. And so it's catch-22 in a certain way, because you want to be able to give everyone freedom of speech, but you also want to make sure that speech is confined to certain parameters that are considered safe.
So Drew, you started Tubefilter, and you've had a good pulse of what's actually happening in the industry. You've been able to see, people come and go as creators. You've been able to see new ideas come and go, and you've basically done a great job documenting that and giving us the news. Where do you see things going in the future? I mean, based on all the information that you have, and you see the pulse of the industry, where is it going to be in a couple of years?
I mean, right now it's consolidating. There's a lot of consolidation. We've seen that, and also there's a lot of the strongest survive kind of trajectory. Just think about 3 or 4 years ago, how many multi-channel networks there were. Like MCN was a word that my mother knew, right? And because listen, Tubefilter, we work with a community. There also are benefactors and sponsors and advertisers, and that sort of list has gotten smaller and smaller in terms of the stalwarts of that era of multi-channel networks. And I think what we're going to see is that divide between traditional entertainment and digital entertainment is we've always said it's vanishing, but it truly is. I mean, you have Lily Singh is hosting a late night talk show.
They have, a bunch of people like Kevin Hart, Shay Mitchell, Will Smith creating a YouTube channel.
Yeah. So it's just like that crossover.
Yeah, that crossover is
happening.
It's
like crossover is really not going to be a relevant word, I think, in this next generation.
Everything will
crossover,
be streaming online.
When you crossover, like crossover from
exactly entertainment
from TikTok to YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that kind of a crossover artist.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think eventually, right now, I think everything is you can stream online. Like everything that's on TV or broadcast is streaming somewhere, and that's a big step, like in entertainment.
It is, and I don't know. I think the thing that I see is we're going to be in an awkward period for the next couple of years of everyone saying, "Oh, I'm going to do my own original. I'm going to do my own SVOD platform," right? And they're pulling content off different platforms and just try to attract an audience. But I think what it's going to do, it's going to further, Netflix will triple down or quadruple down on their original content. And I think it's going to give a lot more creators opportunity to create. And I see these platforms, like YouTube is a mature platform. I think it's going to further solidify how it's going to create a new business even out of that. And I think it's going to be, amazing the next couple of years. But I think it's that awkward period of really trying to figure things out.
And that awkward period is going to have a variety of bubbles.
Absolutely.
I truly believe all the bubbles that we've had in our industry so far have been great and has made our industry even more healthy. From the MCM bubble to, for example, the platform bubble, where, there's probably over like 700 to 1,000 different platforms saying that you could do a turnkey, campaign with creators and influencers by just a drop of a credit card, and we all knew that wasn't true.
Well, what is the current bubble we're in right now? I think it's a bubble of personality. So
sure,
personality-driven content is just everywhere, but there's a lot more cost efficiency and scale when it's an IP related business and not personality driven business. It's like, those personalities that can transition into sort of IP that's not dependent on a single person, that's going to be able to scale very, very well.
100%.
So, and also I think there's a number of creative people, a huge amount of creative people that are not faces or personalities. They're creative, like creative creatives that are animators, or they're doing artistic stuff where they don't want to be in front of the camera. And we're gonna see whether those people are gonna have a way to survive. Or do you have to be a director that's also doesn't let this film speak for itself, but you also have to be a personality too,
right?
Like in order to be successful.
Well, you nailed it right on the head, and this is like something that I preach about a lot. But it's like you have to build a team because the creator burnout aspect is so huge. But you're right, this whole bubble is if you don't have a team, I don't think you're going to survive. Yeah, you might be able to. There might be some platform that will work that you're able to go on and integrate, but the quality of the content is getting better. And you're getting more people that are more organized and they have systems and strategy behind it. And they also have money. They have the money that's coming behind it. And you have other money that's coming in and funding a lot of these projects. And so when you're at the end of the day, what you're looking at is what's going to get the people's attention, and quality is going to be 100% grabbing more eyeballs than anything else. And I think that's where we're at.
I mean, if you look at Phil DeFranco, he says, we interviewed him many, many years ago. He said like the biggest thing that changed his entire trajectory as a creator was he hired an editor, which for creators is very, very difficult because editing is the creative process. Really, it is hand in hand with production. It's really how you build your story. To be able to give that control over to someone else, especially as a self-made creator. You're not plugged into a system. You are literally built this yourself, and then to hand that over to someone else is a huge and scary thing. But then that allowed him to scale, sell Discovery, buy it back. I mean, he's a business now.
Yep.
He's not just a creator. I remember when he was with Discovery, we went to a soundstage, and his bedroom was recreated on a soundstage in Hollywood. It was like, I was like, what? That was just so cool.
I thought it was your bedroom. Come on.
But it enabled him and his team and the institution that he is to scale in such an amazing way.
Well, I think anyone that's been able to pivot like Phil and been able to grow and thrive have always had a team to be able to do that. It's very rare, I think. I think because of the burnout. I mean, if you're burning out with trying to put content out there, you're not going to pivot when you need to pivot.
I don't know how Shane Dawson does it because I think he still does it. Like,
does he not have a team?
I mean, he does,
blows my mind.
But he definitely has got me fooled.
Oh yeah,
that it's just him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So like that's interesting. I feel like there's kind of two ways to go. You can go like the kind of Gary V way, where you're like a team and an entrepreneur and a business person, or you can go like Shane Dawson, where you're like still a creator. Sure. I mean, I know Shane's still in there editing and like late nights, but I think yes, there's probably a lot more of a team behind the work that he does. But I mean, it's incredible how he's also like he was old school.
Oh yeah,
he preceded everyone.
Oh yeah, he was very old school.
And just reinvents himself in a way that's not chasing a trend, but like just surfing it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a real inspiration too.
No, absolutely. You know what? Thank you so much for making time for us. Yeah, I think
it is it.
Oh, man.
I think we're over.
We're just getting interesting.
Yeah, I know. But no, we're gonna have to have you again. But no, thank you so much for making time to come out here and be a part of this.
Thank you all for watching the Creative Disruption podcast. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or on your podcast place of choice. And also, don't forget, we do this weekly, and tell your friends and go disrupt the world.